Okay, hello. Today I'm just going to show real quick the weather app I've been making. That's the app right here on the top. And just kind of go over the features real quick so anyone who doesn't want to download it or try to read the documentation can quickly see just from this video. So yeah, so you open the app. This is opening it for the first time, like unloaded. So you see that was that quick loading icon that was right here. That's the loading state. So just to jump straight into it, basically, because this app pretty much is just like an API call, I'm using a future provider from Riverpod. And so basically, with this future provider, the whole process of like loading the data and all that, what it does is it has three states. So there's a loading state, a data state, and an error state. And so right now, because there's the data here, this is the data state. And before this, when the data was loading, of course, that's the loading state. And finally, of course, there's an error state if there's an error. I will show some more about the loading and error state, but just to show, for example, though, first. So this is the main page. There's only a second page, and that's for the forecast, and I'll show that in a second. But just to really quickly show like and explain it, as you can see, it just shows you the Celsius currently, an icon for what the weather's like right now, and a little short description. Then there's a low to high bar, so it shows the high and the low for today. It shows the humidity right now, and it kind of gives like an idea of like how it's feeling, like how the temperature feels because of the humidity. It gives you an idea about it. Then there's these two cards here, the pressure and wind. I really like the pressure one. I actually used a custom paint object in Flutter to create two arcs, one being this main arc, and then one being the sub arc, which is like actual ratio correctly of this data. It was really complicated to do the numbers for because I'm using 3/4 of a circle and had to calculate that given these two numbers. Like I'm using a pressure meter. I can't remember what the name is for it. But yeah, like normal pressure meters read from this to that, 960 to 1060. And then yeah, then the wind card here, as you can see, it has the wind speed and wind direction. So it's a cool little compass with the miles per hour here. That's like the current wind. And then down here, there's just two icons. They're both clickable, so if you press on the open weather, it takes you to the open weather map website. That's the API I'm using. And then if you press right here, Eric Brown, that takes you to my GitHub. So check that out if you want to. The source code for this will be there, of course. So the second page is the forecast. You can see it's doing this loading state. Both screens are pretty much the same. They both use the same structure of a future provider with the three states. And again, the loading and error state both have two states within each. So and I'll explain the forecast real quick too. So you can see each forecast, it's a 10-day forecast, and it shows another icon, the day, basic description, daytime temperature, and then it also shows this weather bar, which I think is pretty cool. Basically what it does is the weather bar goes from the lowest to the highest temperature of the week, and then the orange bar, the colorful bar inside that is the day, low and high. So you can see that today it's not as the minimum temperature today was not as low as the full week. And then there's some color to kind of correspond with how hot it is. So because I'm in Thailand, that's why the bar is so orange. I mean, you see it's 28 and 36 Celsius. If I was somewhere cooler, the bar would also be more like a bluish green or even a dark blue, depending on how cold it gets. So I think it would look really cool. It's a useful feature. But so that's basically it for the forecast. So I'll show really quickly if I turn off my internet because I don't have data on either. What happens is, so right now I'm in the data state, right? But if I pull to refresh, basically right here, right when I let go with my finger, this is going to start the loading state. Now, the loading state, like I said, has two like substates. There's the loading state while the data is null, and there's the loading state while the data is not null. So as you can see right now, the data is not null. So all that's going to happen is, whoops, this pull to refresh indicator is going to load for a sec and then go away. Now, because there was an error because it couldn't refresh the data, what happens is there's an error state down here, right? So this is the error state, one of two. Again, the error state has two substates, one being if the data is already loaded or one if it's still null. So it's the same thing for the forecast. It loads when you do the pull to refresh, and then it has this toast pop up at the bottom saying there's an error, and that's being the error state is still containing the data while just popping up the toast. What I'll do now though is I'll just close the app real quick to remove the what's called the loaded data. So now if I reopen it and I don't have internet connection, this is the basic error page, and you can see the loading page is that little loading icon in the center right here. So yeah, you can just try to refresh it, but of course it won't work. I'll have to turn the internet back on. The cool thing about this too is that it should catch pretty much every error that could occur. I mean, it's just a basic weather app, so it's not too many errors to really worry about. The main two is pretty much internet connection. Well, I'll say three. So the main three things are internet connection, which also ties into, I was going to say, timeout. So if it times out trying to connect to the API service, and then lastly is location data. So if you don't give permission to load your data, then this kind of basic error screen will also pop up as well. All right, I have internet, so I'm just gonna refresh it. You see it does the loading, and well, it's taking a while, but you see it gets the information here. And you see actually there is like a little loading icon too for these images, or there should be. Let's see here. But yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, it's just two feature providers, or like one feature provider for each screen using RiverPod. It was actually it keeps the code really clean and concise, and so I really enjoyed learning how to use it. But that's my weather app. It's going to be in the Google Play Store soon, so feel free to go download it if you actually want to use it. I will say also, there's no search feature. It's like for like a city or location. It only gives you your current weather. Yeah, I figured I just make a weather app just based on your current location, not worry about the other stuff. It should also work for iOS. I haven't debugged or tested it for iOS yet, but I would like to also put it in the App Store eventually as well. But that's it. Feel free to go check it out.